Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is an expert is saying that we are about to experience a 1929-like crash. Those are some pretty big words, especially from not just one, but several people. And before I get started into it, let me tell you a little story. I remember, and probably you remember your parents talking about the 1929 and the Depression and all that sort of stuff. And, it didn't mean anything to me. I'd experienced that, but they did. So one day I asked I think it was my mom, and I said, so tell me about this. What caused this to start? And looking back, I think my mom was pretty well informed. She says, well, the international bankers needed money to finance World War II. So they started calling loans. And my dad told me this part. My dad said that his dad had a large ranch and blacksmith shop up in Raton, New Mexico, and had a large ranch. My dad was an expert with horses and animals and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, he said that his dad had just bought a bunch of prize cattle and was going to expand his cattle herd. And then like a few months after the loan was made, he got the cattle, then the bank called the loan. Now, that didn't mean he's behind. He wasn't behind. It just means they wanted their money back. So he had to sell the cattle and the ranch and the blacksmith shop all for pennies on the dollar just to pay the bank back because they were demanding the money back. Well, what'd they do? They took that money, not just from my I guess it would be my grandfather, but from a lot of people. And then they reinvested it into World War II, where they could make more money. But what I'm saying is international bankers caused the 1929 stock market, but it was more than just stock market crash. And how'd they do that? They did that by pulling their money out of the system. They control the system and have since 1913. So when they pull their money out, it has no other choice but to crash. So are you saying international bankers control our finances? Yes, actually they do. So what the experts are saying is they just pulled it again. Now, you might not hear this on your typical news yet, but they just did it. Here's what we're talking about. These are some of the experts in the world of finance. The Federal Reserve's BTFP, I'll explain, dropped by over $30 billion this week, which leaves only $26 billion left. Okay, I'll explain. Powell is pulling money out of the system, pulling liquidity to trigger a crisis. Just like in 2020, also coincidentally, the 36T debt ceiling will hit tomorrow. He says we are about to experience a 1929-like crash. If you look at the chart below, he explains it. Now let's go on to more. HalTurnerRadioShow.com says, setting up a crash, Federal Reserve pulls more than half of the credit available through Bank Term Funding Program. What's he talking about? Well, again, you look at this chart, and not a joke. Okay, so what we have been told since 2010, sad to say, has now arrived. Now, most people don't know it's arrived yet, but that's good because that still hopefully gives us a few days, I don't even think I'll say weeks, but a few days to make any last-minute emergency switcheroos on our financial situation. So he goes on to say the Federal Reserve pulled about $30 billion of the available credit from its Bank Term Funding Program. What's that? BTFP. What's that? Many people are saying this lack of liquidity in banks is going to cause a crash. On March 12, the Federal Reserve created the BTFP, an emergency lending program providing loans of up to 1 year and linked to banks. By the way, I started to put another article in here, long list of banks that have closed their doors. A long list. I mean, page after page after page. An emergency lending program provided loans of up to 1 year and linked to banks, savings associations, credit unions, and other eligible depository institutions that pledge U.S. Treasuries, agency debt, and mortgage-backed securities and other qualifying assets as collateral. Financial gurus say it will have the effect of putting massive stress on banks. He says some banks won't be able to cover cash withdrawals. Now, this is not because the banks don't have the funds, but because the bank's funds are locked up in things like Treasury Notes. Little solace to a depositor who needs cash now, or companies that need cash for things like payroll or inventory. The days after the November election, see, now there you go. Remember what they told Benjamin Fulford? They said, we've ruled this planet for thousands of years, and we'll destroy it rather than give it up. So Trump is taking over the government. You've seen his appointments, which, by the way, they are going through. Perhaps I should explain that, but these appointments are not going to have to be approved by the Senate because the Senate is not in session. Anything he appoints when the Senate is not in session doesn't have to be approved. So you hear a lot of people saying, oh, he'll never be approved. He doesn't have to be approved. Okay, so if he appoints them, Senate's not in session, boom, it's through, it's approved. So they're complaining about Mark Getz, he's going to be the Attorney General, period. Okay, meaning Trump is taking over the government. Trump and other people are kicking the elite. We're talking about people going back to the days of the pyramids, have controlled the financial system. We're kicking them out of the global financial system, and they are mad. They're mad enough to take 2 shots at President Trump trying to kill him. They're mad. And they control the money, and what they're doing is, again, the same thing they did in 29. We've been watching for this since 2010. Hopefully you're listening, and I believe you are. That means you need to jump. Okay, if your finances are not in order, you better jump, not move. You better jump. Little solace as a depositor who needs cash. Now are companies that need cash for things like payroll and inventory. The days after the November election, it's almost as if they timed this. Oh, surely not. So that if the wrong candidate won the election, they could pull the rug out from under the entire economy. I think they knew in advance who was going to win because they have the real polls. They really knew what was coming. They already knew that Kamala was going to lose. So this whole thing is coming down, say the experts. The fall guy is in place and setting up the scene. He is lining up the patsies and puffing up the patriot crowd. Here's another expert. It's important to see how the Federal Reserve pulls liquidity from the banking system to trigger a crisis. January 2020, the Fed reduced emergency repo by $110 billion, minus 44% over 8 weeks. The BTFP has been reduced by $29 billion, or 29%, over 2 weeks, targeting zero on 6 November 2024, a day after the election. So this is the world elite, the international bankers. Remember, I was told what sets the suitcase nukes off is international bankers. Regardless who they say did it or who they blame it on, the people behind it will be international bankers, more like ball worshippers, okay? Now, that's another good reason for you to go to prophecyclubbar.com or 771-1776. Now, I'm going to go out of town, and I'm taking, matter of fact, I just laid these aside. I'm taking these with me, and I'll just tell you, I'm also taking a gold coin, and what I'm doing is just putting it in with the rest of the coins in my wife's, whatever, that's probably all I should say, so that if it's scanned, it won't even show up. These are excellent because you can break them apart so that each one of these, you can break it apart to pay for things. And also, if you have not made your financial changes, you better get after it. I'm warning. The prophecies are warning you. I'm just looking at the prophecies. I don't know nothing. 800, 200 gold. Call these guys and say, okay, here's my situation. I'm okay. Am I good? If they say, no, you're not in good shape, then you better listen. 800, 200 gold. We're running out of time. I'm warning you. 800, 200 gold. Okay. Now, here's why I say I'm warning you. None of what you see on this page comes from me. But this is what the prophecies say. Now, I'm summarizing. If you've been following Prophecy Club for a long time, you already know this. I'm just kind of putting it so that you can see it a little easier. So, you know that Shane Warren was told back in 2010 that the fall of the dollar would be started when they started selling oil in another currency other than the dollar. That started 6/9/2024. 6/10 was when Saudi Arabia made an agreement with China and started selling the oil in the Chinese yuan, going around the dollar. And then, of course, the whole BRICS thing. We thought that the BRICS was going to go live October 24, 25. And it didn't, but maybe they were waiting on the election. All right, then also, another thing to look for the suitcase nukes going off will be a currency or a banking change. Boom. It's happening. Now, it's probably not going to be on your 6 o'clock news, but it's happening. It's in progress. And not just one person says it. Also, when you see a celebration like after a war ends, specifically when Trump is returning to power, what they're rejoicing over is Trump returning to power. Well, I got a green check mark with a red circle around that because we see it happening. It hadn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. Same thing with celebration. It's going to happen. Now, I put a big question mark by massive arrests because the prophecies say that they are all associated, but we haven't seen them yet. We haven't seen it. But what I'm trying to say is, brothers and sisters, we're not playing games here. I'm not trying to sell things. I'm trying to tell you that our nation has fallen. Babylon has fallen, has become the habitation of the devils, the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. And God has decided to punish it. Now, we can stay on the side of those that are not prepared, or we can get ourselves prepared. I think we want to get prepared. I think we want to be there giving help, praying for people, leading people to the Lord when everybody else is biting their fingernails and wondering, hey, what happened? How come these guys knew this was coming? Because God warned us. Let's go on. Now, I'm not going to read this again. I read it many times. But this is Shane Warren's prophecy. July 10, 2012 is when he spoke to Prophecy Club, but he got it in 2010. And this is where he says 3/4 of the way down, when they start buying oil in another currency, that's when the dollar starts crashing. Devaluing of the dollar. We're about to see it. We're about to see this 14-year-old prophecy about to happen. He said he saw silver, not gold, but silver skyrocketing. He said he saw, here's another thing. He said he saw people, where was it? Give us our entire, very, very bottom line. The devaluing of the dollar caused major rioting in the streets. I saw riots in the major cities. On their signs was written, give us our entitlements. Give us our entitlements. Okay, so Trump is appointing Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to a new Department of Government Expense. Anyway, it makes sense to me that one of the things they're going to do is start cutting off some of the excess. They've already said the excess, but some of it is going to be money that the government has been sending out that they don't need to start sending out, or at least in their opinion, and it's going to cause people saying, give us our entitlements. So here we are. We are at the door. It hadn't happened yet, but we can certainly see it can start happening in the next 2-3 months, okay? And as a result of that, there was literally war, civil war, on the issuing of devaluing the money. What just happened may be the thing that will start devaluing of our money. Devaluing of the currency. Look, we're making the international bank, or I should say Trump is making the international bankers angry. And they are not going to just lay down, roll over, and play dead. They're not going to just disappear in the night and say, okay, well, you win. Then he saw in the middle of this. Now here's another thing. I prayed about this. I do not think the suitcase nukes is the hand of God. I think it's permissible, how do I say this? The permissible hand of God. In other words, God is allowing the evil to set off the nukes. But it's not the hand of God. What the hand of God is going to be if, or I should say maybe when, We're still praying against it, though. If America splits Israel, God is going to split America. Great Lakes open up all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, and apparently it is a wide, there's a lot of, I don't know, I think it's up to 15 people seen that now. So during that time, when the earthquake hits, that's the judgment of God. That's when miracles start, like someone's saying, going back to Adam and Eve. And it's all associated with the wealth transfer coming in the hands of believers. If you put what I just said, if you just step back and say, no, wait a minute, let's make some notes on this. What this is saying is we are at the door. We are at the door. Sorry to say, we can't close the door. Door is opening, and we can only get ready. Now, I read this about a week ago. So this one particular representative has introduced a bill to eliminate the U.S. Federal Reserve. Not a joke. This is all part of Nasara and Gassara. If you're familiar with what I'm talking about there, go look it up. But it repeals and it gets rid of the Federal Reserve. It kicks them out of the financial system. That's the same reason they killed JFK. Probably, truth be known, the same reason they killed Abraham Lincoln. It's the same spirit behind it. Lucifer thinks he can rule the world. Here we have more of this getting rid of the Federal Reserve, more of them taking away the finances. I'm not going to read this one either. I read this several times. This is a word from Barry Wunsch. It was a vision. He was taken into the Federal Reserve server room, and he tells about how the servers are just about to crash. They can't go any further. And he says they're bringing in a new system, a quantum financial system. He was even shown the CPU was like a chunk of crystal. Okay? In other words, it's light-based. That makes very good sense. So he says all of this is about to change. That's what it says. You can pause it and read if you want to. I've already read it many times. Everything is going to be exposed. There's going to become a major big breaking news moment. That's what he says. And then there's going to be a wealth transfer to the church. That's what Shane Warren says. Shane said that people won't be able to go to the government for help anymore. The government's going to be broke, as Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy is correcting it, okay? And so it's going to be broke. Instead, they have to go to the church. So there's about to be a wealth transfer to the church. Justice is going to be served. They're about to lose all control, the Federal Reserve. And all of this makes them very, very angry. I read this the other day, too. They are setting up a whole new financial system, and I believe in the early phases, the early stages, it'll be good. Pastor Massey was told by the Lord, he said, you have 6 months to get your money out of the new system. And he said, you ought to put in land or gold, or of course, I'll also add oil rigs in Israel. But anyway, here it is, brothers and sisters. This is the reason I had to jump on. I had to jump on today. I had to say this. You can pause and read it if you want to. We've read it several times. It's going to be a whole new system. When does it come in? When this, and by the way, I have looked, I've searched. This particular word for word headline does not exist. However, there are several of them that are very close. Victory Donald John Trump sweeps the nation. And I have heard several of the people say he swept the states, or he swept the South, or he swept here, but I've heard that word several times. Probably you have too. To other nations, they're going to be doing a big cleanup. You can see with some of the appointments that Trump has made, he's planning a big sweep, a big cleanup in our, not just the government, the military, the education system, the Department of Health. I'm happy to see JFK taking over that, cleaning up oh boy, the things that they put in our foods, man. This is in my opinion, this is granddaddy, because it says here, when we see our finances change, we haven't seen it yet, but boy, it is in progress. When we see Trump taking control, when we see massive arrests, those three things, then he said he saw a suitcase nuke explode. You can read it if you want to. And it was a small thing. Here's another one. He's back. Donald John Trump is back. Several of them say this. It's not just one. As many people are saying, let me get to the point. Ask the Lord, what do I need to do to get prepared? Ask Him, what do I need to do to get prepared? And let me just say, one of the things I think that would be very good, remember I heard the words medical on November the 9th, Saturday afternoon, about 2:30, I'm waking up and I heard the two words, medical, and they were loud as a trumpet. Now Leslie just waking up beside me, she didn't hear it. So it wasn't with this ear, it was in my heart. And I believe what he's saying is that Prophecy Club, but also those people that believe in Prophecy Club, he's telling you if you want to be a help in the future when these suitcase nukes go off, make certain you also have medical preparations. Yes, we have water filters. Yes, we have gold and silver. Yes, and we have Joseph Kitchen food. But apparently the thing we're missing is medical. Now, if you go to refugemedical.com, refugemedical.com, they have all of these right here. Now, this is the particular website for this particular page. If you use the promo code PROPHECY, we arrange to get you a 5% discount. They have a business bundle, have a home bundle. Everybody ought to have that. Everybody ought to have that. Also, I have a vehicle bundle, what you carry in your vehicle for things that might happen out there. All American made, all good quality stuff. Also, you have one for your church, some things that might typically happen in a church. Individual first aid kits. They have all of this at refugemedical.com. 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 Use the promo code PROPHECY. Get yourself a 5% discount. Go and check it out. In 2021, I started making bread. And long story short is I believe God showed me that wheat is God's famine food, just like it was famine food back in the 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, days of Pharaoh and Joseph. And I believe that that's what God has planned to feed His people. And you get it by going to josephskitchen.com. 3 steps. First, you want to get a machine package. Second, you want to order 6 ingredients and watch some videos, download the recipes to be able to make the bread. josephskitchen.com. Most of your long-time storage food, emergency food, all of that, typically are talking $9,000, $10,000 to feed one person for a year. Joseph Kitchen can show you how to do it for around $1,000 a person, and your kids will actually eat it, and it's actually good for you. Here's some bread that I made. In my case, I lost weight, lowered my blood pressure, gives me more energy. I eat a morning, slice in the morning, slice in the afternoon. Always a slice before I go play racquetball. Go check it out, josephskitchen.com. When the suitcase nukes, I didn't say if, I said when the suitcase nukes go off, if you want your car to start, if you want your computers and your refrigerators and things like that, anything with a computer chip to work, you want to have one of these from EMPShield.com. EMPShield.com. And they have videos up there. It takes about 10 minutes to put on. It's not complicated at all. And if you use the word prophecy, promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps your Prophecy Club. Okay, the very best offer we have ever had of the Prophecy Club is 40 books for a gift of $100. That is How Pre-Trib Won, Tribulation Secrets in Daniel, God's Warnings to America, Miss the Mark, and The Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy. I'll explain. As I've said many times, in 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. I got 30 revelations, 2 visions, and an audible voice. God showed me a secret door, the word first fruits, which is found in Leviticus and also Revelation, that links the feasts to the prophecies of Revelation. And perhaps for the first time, Revelation can be understood. One prophetic word said, there's a lock. I put over a word in the book of Revelation. I'm going to open it to you. It will turn many books written on the end-time message into obsolete books. That's this book. Secondly, I put together a collection of the very best prophecies from 32 years in Bible prophecy: Dimitri Duduman, Michael Boldale, Leslie Johnson, Henry Groover, Shane Warren, Terry Bennett, Maurice Sklar, Augusto Perez, Doug Metzger, Bree Keaton, and more in God's Warnings to America. Also, how do you talk to people about the mark of the beast, especially if they worship another god? Well, simple way is give them this book. It's a quick read, takes about 3 hours to read it. But if they'll read 2 or 3 pages, they'll probably read the book. And if they read the book, they will never take the mark of the beast. It explains both the mark of the beast and also the number of the name, and it has these pictures in the book. Finally, how pre-trib won. This book explains the truth about the rapture. It gives 4 foundations for the real truth about the rapture. It also answers 25 pre-trib questions, 1 for $20, each one of these typically, but don't do that. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets. The very best deal is go to prophecyclub.com and get the entire 40-book set for $100. I didn't cover every verse in the book of Daniel, didn't need to. I just covered the verses that has to do with us end-time saints. And it's called Tribulation Secrets in Daniel, 1 for $20, 10 for $30, 20 for $50 at prophecyclub.com.